Namaste, Swagatam. We are very delighted to continue with this series on the Bhagavad Gita, a summary of each chapter, totaling 18, so that we may comprehend how our ancient texts are replete with traditional wisdom that is very relevant to current times, an essential learning to solve our problems of both the here and the hereafter. We have with us Arati Nagarajan ji, a student of Puja Swami Dhyana Saraswati ji, who has studied the Bhagavad Gita in detail at the Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, Anekatti, Coimbatore. As a full-time student of Vedanta and Sanskrit from 2014 to 2017, under the guidance of Acharya Swami Sadatmananda Saraswati ji. She has worked in the IT industry for 12 years prior to joining the course, and she has taught the entire Bhagavad Gita once and is presently teaching it online for the second time. Vanakkam Aarti ji. Thank you so much for agreeing to guide us with the summaries of Bhagavad Gita chapters. Allow me to start with a few questions, as always. Why is this chapter 6 called Dhyana Yoga, Aarti ji?
Namaste, everybody. This chapter is called Dhyana Yoga because Bhagavan discusses meditation, dhanam in the whole of this chapter, how to prepare, how to perform dhanam, and what are the benefits, what are the obstacles that come in dhanam, how to resolve them. So complete dhanam is taken up by Bhagavan in this chapter, therefore it is called Dhyana Yoga. Another name which it goes by is Atma Sanyama Yoga also. Atma here refers to the mind again, where the mastery or the withdrawal of the mind is talked about.
So, Atma Sanyama Yoga. So, how important is dhyana for moksha?
Yeah. In Vedanta, we talk about three obstacles in the path for moksha. They're called Mala, Vikshepa, Avarana. Mala is basically the impurity of the mind in the form of raga, dveshas, likes and dislikes, which can lead to various other emotions, strong emotions like hatred, jealousy, greediness, anger, desires, pride, all these things. So they are called Mala, and they are overcome by this attitude of Karma Yoga, by living a life of Karma Yoga. That is the remedy given for gaining mastery over Raga Dveshas and gaining purity of the mind. The next obstacle is Vikshepa. Vikshepa means the vacillation of the mind, the distracted mind, where it is not able to stay with the topic, it is not able to focus on something for a length of time, it always gets distracted. To overcome that Vikshepa of the mind, Upasana is prescribed. Upasana is also a form of dhyanam, which is based on meditating on a particular subject. Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara it is called. Dhyana is a mental activity, that is why it is called Manasa Vyapara. But what should it meditate on? It is Saguna Brahma. That means, yeah, Ishvara with attributes in the form of some Ishta Devata or any Devata, one can meditate on. So that is called Upasana. And there are various Upasanas prescribed in the Shastra, in the Veda, in Vedanta for gaining that mind which is undistracted, which is able to stay. Then the next obstacle is called Avarana, which is nothing but ignorance. Ignorance about oneself, the reality of oneself being all that is here. And that is removed only through Jnanam. Avarana is removed only, ignorance is removed through Jnanam. And how to gain Jnanam is Jnana Yoga, we had seen, where it involves Shravanam, inquiry into the Shastra with the help of a teacher, a guru, Manana, after gaining Jnanam, what the Shastra says, that all that is here is Ishvara and that Ishvara is nothing but myself. The person can have intellectual questions and intellectual doubts. Therefore, one uses logic to remove those doubts.
Okay.
So that and gain clarity,
Hmm.
gain freedom from this vagueness and doubts. That is
Hmm.
called manana. Then the next step is nididhyasanam, and that is also a type of dhyanam.
Hmm.
The reason for nididhyasanam is the person has been entertaining this notion that I am a jiva, I am limited, I have all these problems. But this new jnanam has not gained that strength yet to
Hmm.
overcome jiva bhava, this notion
Hmm.
of being.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
this person has to stay with that jnanam, dwell on that jnanam which has been gained for a length of time to be able to internalize that knowledge. So that process is called nididhyasanam. And one of the ways to do nididhyasanam is through this dhyanam, where a person sits for meditation and entertains thoughts about this jnana, brings
Hmm.
back the and stays with it for a length of time. So
Okay.
this dhyanam is what is being talked about in this sixth chapter. So dhyanam is useful in two ways.
Hmm.
One is to remove vikshepa through
Hmm.
upasana. It is useful for moksha.
Hmm.
And this nididhyasanam dhyanam. The
Hmm.
dhyanam in the form of nididhyasanam is useful to be free from what is called viparita bhavana, this mistaken notion that I am still a jiva.
Okay. So there is a slight difference between Upasana and Nididhyasana. One
Not
is more.
slight, yeah, major difference.
Yes.
Upasana is about saguna brahma.
Hmm.
Nididhyasanam is on nirguna brahma, which is nothing but atma, myself.
Got it.
Oneness is being the thoughts of this oneness or
Hmm.
the nature of myself being limitless
Hmm.
ananda, all
Hmm.
these are dwelt on.
Thank you. And in the Arsha Vidya Parampara, Artiji, we do not say control the mind. Instead, we use the phrase manage the mind. So, what is the difference between controlling and managing? Is not control a better option because the mind is always fluctuating all the time?
Yes, that's a good question. You see, control means there may be a use of force, there may be suppression, there may not be understanding of what the nature of the mind is, but just try to stop it or remove certain kinds of thoughts, because it is very popular in Vedanta. They keep saying mana eva manushyanam bandha moksha yoho karanam. So mind is the cause of all bondage and moksha also. But we have to understand what the mind is, what the nature of the mind is. And mind is nothing but an instrument. It is called antahkaranam, the inner instrument. It is a tool given to us for processing things. The mind is in the form of thoughts which keep changing. Say they give the example of the mind being equal to a monkey. Have you seen a monkey which is very quiet, very contemplative? Generally, we don't see that kind of a monkey. If it is like that, if it is calm and it is just sitting in a place very quiet, then it is not a healthy monkey. A monkey is supposed to be always, moving about, jumping about. So mind also is like that, where it keeps changing. The thoughts keep shifting, and that's a healthy mind. Swamiji used to say, if you get stuck with one thought and stay there, then you will not be able to progress further. So,
Yes.
mind has to be understood as something which keeps changing, which keeps moving. But can we let it like that? No. When we want it, we have to bring it back. We have to keep it and use it. So, mind is seen as a tool given, and it is trained, not controlled. It is managed. We understand the nature of the mind, because it is not possible to say, I have complete control over what thoughts occur in my mind, because it is based on the person's karma, vasana, samskaras, culture, background, society, family. values, everything comes into play. Why a certain thought happens in our mind. What we have is, what we have a choice over is, we can identify with the thought or just be a witness to the thought and let it go.
Okay.
So we have a choice with respect to which thoughts we want to go with, and which thoughts we want to entertain, and which thoughts we want to just let go. The thought occurring itself is not a problem, but my identification with the thought. If the mind is restless, I think I am restless. So what happens? There is agitation. No, no, I should not let mind be restless. I should control. So then there are certain thoughts, say some desires come. No, no, these are not good for me. I should not entertain these thoughts. I should stay away from this thought. That's okay. But then some desire happens, we try to see it objectively and process it. Something is, unfulfilled inside, and that's coming up as a desire. We understand that fulfilling the desire does not going to make it any better and make it good. So there is a lot of understanding, but controlling has this, creates this inner conflict that I should not have these thoughts, so they should not come. So there is stress over it. There is agitation. All that happens. So they give this. This person was given a mantra by the, but he said before chanting this mantra, you should not think of a monkey. So what happens? When he starts chanting, starts to sit and chant the mantra, remembers what is the instruction? I should not think of a monkey. And what happens? The more we want to avoid something, the more the mind will think of it. That's the nature of the mind. Even children, you can see. The more you tell them not to do it, they will do only that. So the mind also is like a child sometimes. It cannot stop itself. But there is a way of managing it, not controlling it. So we have a say over what thoughts we want to go with. That is called managing, understanding the nature of the mind and trying to manage our thoughts.
Yeah, so there's no suppression. There is more of the understanding and going with that understanding, which is a better way and more permanent way, perhaps. So, what role does Karma Yoga play in Dhyana, Aarti ji?
For a person to come to dhyanam, which is meditation, the person must have gone through a life of karma yoga. Only then one can sit for meditation. Here in Vedanta literature, it is called contemplation. Meditation is a universal term. It can be any kind of meditation. We have, relaxation meditation, focus meditation. So many kinds of meditations are possible. But in Vedanta, what we are talking about is nididhyasanam, which is contemplation. Another kind of meditation, dhyanam, we saw upasana, is helpful in purification of the mind. Atma Vishuddhi, the, in the form of Raga Dvesha, also it can help while chanting the Nama of Bhagavan. It itself can cause some purity. So that kind of dhyanam is there, but here in this chapter, basically what is being talked about is nididhyasana. In nididhyasanam, what happens? We are trying to be contemplative. We should have already gained the knowledge. Then only we can sit for meditation. Before gaining the knowledge, one should have the preparedness for gaining the knowledge. So karma yoga becomes very necessary.
Yeah.
So first, one has to have undergone this life of karma yoga, where one has this mastery. One has attained mastery over likes and dislikes, binding likes and dislikes. That also is important. Preferences are okay, but binding likes and dislikes, what happens? They preoccupy the mind. When I have a strong like over something or dislike over something, only that will come and sit in my mind when I sit for meditation. That you can see. You try to sit for meditation for 5 minutes. What are the thoughts which come in your head? Wherever there is Raga, it will go towards that. And wherever there is some pain that needs attention, it will go towards that. So that's what will happen. But we need a mind which is relatively free from all these preoccupations so that it can focus on this Atma's nature, one's own nature. And therefore, Karma Yoga is very necessary to gain this relative freedom from preoccupation of the mind to be able to sit in dhyana. So, first, of course, it is required for even gaining this jnana. Only after gaining this freedom from ragadvesha, one is one's mind is available for shravanam, for listening to the shastra. There was a person who used to come to class. We went to a camp, and this person was a businessman, but he still came for the camp. It was a 3 or 4 day camp. He said, Madam, I will confess something. I am not able to sit in the class. My whole mind is occupied with my business. So it is very natural. Wherever our priorities are, there our mind will go. And where there is this pursuit of artha kama, through likes and dislikes, then definitely my mind is going to go only towards that. So for even Shravanam, one needs a calm, available mind. Then further, for after gaining this jnanam, for sitting in nididhyasanam, definitely a quiet mind, a calm mind. And here in the sixth chapter, Bhagavan Bhashyakara, Shankaracharya ji says, a person who has alam buddhi means this is enough. I am content with what is there. So that kind of a mind can only sit for meditation. Therefore, Karma Yoga becomes a very necessary prerequisite for gaining this meditation. Yeah, for doing this meditation.
This is beautiful. Alam Buddhi is so wonderful. It's a good phrase. I think we can all carry today after this session that we should have Alam Bhava to be able to sit for dhyana. So, is this one of the prerequisites, Karma Yoga, Alam Buddhi? Any other prerequisites? And also, does this chapter talk about how to meditate, where, when, like what are the any other factors does it talk about that?
Yes, it does. Bhagavan first talks about this external preparation in the form of karma yoga. He starts this chapter starts with glorifying a karma yogi, and then those are part of this external preparation. It's called Bahiranga Sadhanam, where one should have practiced much before sitting for meditation through a life of alertness, through a life of karma yoga. So after having gained this samatva buddhi, samatva is the equanimity of the mind with respect to unpleasant and pleasant situations. So if my mind gets caught up in unpleasant or pleasant, it is going to get preoccupied with that. So that freedom from this preoccupation is gained through freedom from ragadveshas, binding ragadveshas, karma yoga is talked about. Then further, internal preparations, antaranga sadhanam is talked about by Bhagavan. Those are done right before, just before sitting for meditation. What are the preparatory steps he talks about? There, Bhagavan talks about where one should meditate. So, Bhagavan says, Shuchau deshe pratisthapya sthiram asanam atmanah natyuchritam natinicham chaila jina kushottaram. Then, tatraikagram manah kritva yata chittendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yundyat atma Yogam Atma Vishuddhaye. There, so first Bhagavan talks about the place which is clean should be chosen where one is inspired to do meditation. It can be a quiet corner in our own house, or it can be some nice place where one is able to sit with the nature. But it should be free from disturbance. That is first. And what time should we meditate? Whenever our mind is relatively calm. So generally, they say early morning is very good for meditation. But whenever we feel the mind is calm, that time is good enough for meditation. Then how should one sit? That is also there. So what kind of asanam one should sit in? So it should be sthiram. The seat of meditation should be steady, because what happens in meditation, we have to sit for a length of time, and it should be comfortable. The seat of meditation should be comfortable. Does it mean I should sit only in Padmasana? If one is able to sit, very well. But if one has to adjust one's position in some way where one can sit for a length of time. In fact, they say if one is able to sit without moving, shifting for 48 minutes, that is called asana jaya, mastery over the asana. So that is what is required here. One should not be distracted by pain in the knee or the back. So whatever is comfortable has to be taken up, but it should not be too comfortable also, because then we will relax and start resting and go to sleep. So it should be firm and steady. That is talked about, and it should not be too high or too low. The seat of meditation should not be too high, because what happens is sometimes the person may feel sleepy, then there is a risk of falling from a height. That's not a good thing, it can hurt the person. And if it is too low also, then all the creatures on the ground, earlier, the ground was teeming with a lot of creatures, bugs, so it is not a good thing. Or it can be a wet floor, where they sit in the cave and all that. So one has to make sure it is not too high or not too low. That is also talked about by Bhagavan. Then the asanam itself, Bhagavan talks about how one should set up the asanam. So nowadays we have a lot of yoga, asanas. There, traditionally, the kusha grass, this grass mat is spread, and over that, this deer skin is spread, and over that, a soft cloth is spread. On that, the person sits for meditation. Generally, it is recommended that we have our personal asanam for meditation. We don't share them. Yeah. And then how should one set up one's body also is talked about. The body should be relaxed, and yet it has to be straight. Bhagavan talks specifically that the head, neck, and back have to be aligned in a straight line. Samam kaya shirogrivam dharayan achalam sthiraha. Kaya, Shiraha, Griva, the body, the head and the neck have to be in a straight line. Then one is, erect. One should be relaxed and yet alert and erect. Because what happens generally, if you see first, if you sit for meditation, if anybody has tried, after some time, the body starts dropping like this, the head starts dropping
Very
down.
true. Very true. Very true.
Then it falls asleep. So one should, yeah, sit in an erect position to aid proper meditation. And also the our teacher Swamiji used to talk about how one should also close one's eyes. That's also a big and plays a major role in how effective the meditation can be. Because I've seen some people shut their eyes too tightly. There is so much tension in their face, they are shutting their eyes. But one's eyes have to be gently closed, just like we see in the images of Buddha, where the eyes, there is no crease in the eyelid, so it has to be completely down, but yet the eyelids are softly touching each other, they are not tightly closed. That makes the person relaxed also. And after having done that, one should also, Bhagavan also talks about this pranayama, deepening the breath. Not pranayama in the sense of, some yogasana, but here pranayama is done for steadying the mind, for calming the mind. Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi in his Upadesha Saram, he talks about how the mind can be managed with the help of the breath, because prana is required for the mind to function. If we hold the prana, the mind also will keep quiet. You check. If you start watching your breath, then the mind will be quiet. Right? So here pranayama is talked about where the breath is made equal. The inhalation and the exhalation is made equal. So we watch our breath for a length of time and we calm the mind. Then, with that calm mind, a person starts to meditate. And here, sometimes people think that, oh, I sit for meditation, but my mind keeps wandering here and there. Even for japa, when one sits, then it causes so much frustration and depression for the person. We have to understand, bringing back the mind is also part of the meditation. As we have seen, the mind has the tendency to go out, so it has some kind of logic, even though we may not know what logic it is. It has some logic. You start with Om Namah Shivaya, say. Generally, what is recommended is we start with Saguna Brahma Upasana, meaning with some japa, and then slowly we move on to Nididhyasana, Nirguna Brahma. So if we start chanting, say a mantra like Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, then say we get the form of Shiva. Oh, Shiva is form. Then we think about Ganga on his head. Then with Ganga we go somewhere. Oh, Ganga has become so polluted, it is not the same anymore. I wish I could go to Uttarakashi, but nobody is letting me go there. My boss is not
Very
giving me.
true.
This process like this. So where have I gone now? Sometimes it takes a long time for the mind to even recognize that it has gone away and then come back. But one does this abhyasa, this practice of bringing back the mind and focusing it on the mantra or the given object of meditation again and again and again and again. So, this practice what makes meditation effective. So, it's part of the meditation. The mind can go out, but still one has to bring it back. So, all this is talked about by Bhagavan in this sixth chapter as the steps before meditation and also during meditation.
I like this idea, Artiji. Thank you so much. That bringing back the mind and focusing is itself meditation, so that we don't feel too guilty that I couldn't meditate today. The very fact, like you said, if we have a proper asana which is personal, sit erect and focus on something, either saguna to start with and then move to nirguna. But the point is to bring back the mind each time, and that itself is meditation. Is a wonderful tool that you have given, and what Bhagwan has given, and you've talked about. I liked Alam Bhava. I like the fact that you bring back the mind. That itself is meditation. So this is very useful and helpful. But what if a person does not get, as in as though, get moksha in this lifetime after doing all this upasana, dhyana, nididhyasana, shravana, manana, all that a person does, he or she, and still is not able to be in that, because I would understand moksha as being free in the here and now, and one doesn't feel so despite all this. What happens if at deathbed also, at the time of dying, the person has still not, again, these are English words, pardon me for my usage, that he's not or she's not achieved moksha? How would you term it, and how would you answer this?
Yes, yeah, you're referring to the question that Arjuna asked in the sixth chapter, where he said, he probably sometimes we ask as though we are asking for somebody, but we are actually asking for ourselves. So there also Arjuna says, this samatvam, samadarshanam, that is seeing myself in all that is here, seems to be tough. So, what if a person has not gained this samatvam, this samadarshanam, this vision of oneness in this life, even though he has Shraddha? He says, Shraddhayo petaha, yogat chalita manasaha. But his mind has moved away from this yoga, from this jnanam. His mind has not been successful in fully grasping the jnanam. Even though he has Shraddha in the Shastra, he has committed to this pursuit. But because of ayati, because of not enough effort, not proper effort, perhaps also because due to some obstacles. Three obstacles are talked about, which is centered on oneself, adhyatmika, adi bhautika, centered on others around us, or adi daivika, external factors. So all these obstacles are possible, therefore the person may not have attained that complete jnanam. So, what happens to that person? Will that person be destroyed? Like the cloudlet which has moved away from the big cloud, will he just get dissipated? That's the question of Arjuna. And Bhagavan replies very beautifully. He says, Nahi kalyanakrit kashchit durgatim tata gacchati. O Arjuna, this Kalyanakrit, the one who has stepped towards moksha, made efforts towards moksha, Durgatim na gacchati, does not fall into a bad lot, does not have any kind of destruction. What happens to him? Bhagavan says, him or her, Bhagavan says, the person just for listening to the Shastra, the person gains a lot of punya, therefore will enjoy for a length of time in Swarga. And after that, will come back and pick up the thread where he or she left. So his or her efforts do not go waste. Whatever effort was put in towards moksha, elsewhere, Bhashakara refers to this turn. Just as the river has this natural flow towards the ocean, generally. But there are certain places where the river turns towards its source. That is called, that those are holy places we have in Allahabad or in Rishikesh. There are certain places where the river flows towards its source and then goes back. So that is like, a very great effort is required. Generally, everybody goes towards Artha Kama Dharma, but this person has discerned that moksha is the goal of my life and made effort towards it, then definitely that is taken account of. And in the next life, there are two options, Bhagavan says. One either gets born in a family of wealthy, cultured people, where one can easily pick up the thread and make further efforts and gain moksha. Or it is possible that this person is born in a family of yogis, jnanis themselves, may not be wealthy, but they are very wise people. So the person can be born even as a child of a wise person. So then the person again, because of satsanga and the previous samskaras, picks up the thread, gains this jnanam and gains moksha. So definitely any effort put towards moksha will never go waste. It will always help the person.
So this is good news to people like me. So thank you for that, and thank you to Bhagavan. Aarti ji, in most topics that we have in Vyavahara, there is a theory aspect, there's a practical aspect. So we study the theory and then go to the lab if you're in sciences, or if it's humanities, you go on the field, do field work, etc. So in Vedanta, as we see for moksha, for example, that we are studying, there is Shravanam, we are studying the text, and then we are doing Dhyanam. So is there this distinction of theory and practice? And if not, what would you say is how would we define it? Is it a similar study like other topics and subjects?
No. Yeah, that's a general misconception where people say, I'm okay, I listen to what Vedanta says, I understand, but I'm not able to put into practice. So Dhyanam is where one can realize Atma. That is not true. Shravanam is the process, sadhana for understanding my nature. Shravanam is the process where the Shastra study takes place with the help of a guru. The guru unfolds the vision of the Shastra as a pramana, as the means of knowledge. And the person who is exposed to that means of knowledge gains jnana. It is like I open my eyes, I see what is in front. You can't avoid that. When the mind is ready, when the mind is behind the eyes, and there is something in front of the eyes, then knowledge takes place, sight takes place. In that same way, when the mind is prepared and the person is exposed to the teaching, knowledge takes place. Even if you want to avoid it, you cannot avoid it, knowledge will take place. So that is where jnanam happens. However, what happens is there are obstacles for this jnanam to become one's own jnanam. It can be in the form of, okay, Shastra says this, but what is my vision? So, making the vision of the Shastra my vision requires this meditation, nididhyasana. And in between, of course, as we had seen, the intellect can put up a lot of questions, a lot of doubts. How can it be like this? It is called Prameya Shanka. About the subject matter, about Brahma, about this oneness, about the reality of things, there can be several questions because we have so many other contradictory versions available because of our current contemporary society. So many other philosophies are there and science is there. So they have very different views on things. They don't talk about oneness. So understanding, accepting this oneness can take time in the form of this Prameya Shanka. The intellect can have a lot of questions. They have to be dealt with through in Mananam. Then finally, we had seen this Nididhyasanam is not used for gaining anything new. No new knowledge takes place in Nididhyasanam, in this meditation, in contemplation. What happens is the person brings back what jnanam one has already gained. That oneness which is free from vagueness and doubt is brought back to the mind. It can be in the form of a word, or it can be in the form of a sentence, or it can be any object. In fact, it is said, Yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra samadhayaha. Wherever the mind goes, the person recognizes the reality of the thought, reality of the object which the mind is entertaining thoughts about. That will again fall into Atma. That will again give way to its reality, which is Brahman. So there is no way one can move away from Brahman. That is what is seen in meditation again and again. So as one stays with this vision, it percolates into the person's life more and more. In this way, Nididhyasanam is helpful. It is not practice based on a theory. Yeah.
So it's not separate.
It's not separate. Yeah. Jnanam takes place just as how we open our eyes and see, sight takes place, Jnanam takes place even in Shravan.
Thank you so much, Artiji. All these questions, and you answered them, and we understand it, we comprehend it. But as always, if you can summarize this chapter, it'll help us comprehend this chapter much better. So please go ahead.
Sure. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So here in the sixth chapter, in the fifth chapter, Bhagavan had already introduced the topic of dhyanam. He had said how one should this prana, pano, samukutva, all that he had mentioned in the earlier chapter. He continues in this sixth chapter. First, he starts by glorifying karma yoga and saying a karma yogi is a sannyasi really because he has given up the attachment towards the result of action. Then Bhagavan talks about the person who wants to gain this jnanam, do dhyanam, one should first undergo life of karma yoga. Arurukshoho munehe yogam karma karanam uchyate, the third verse. Bhagavan says, for one to gain the steadiness of the mind to do dhyanam, one should undergo a life of karma yoga. After having mastered that, then one should go towards renunciation. Shamaha karanam uchyate, he says. After gaining this freedom from raga dvesha, the real benefit of karma yoga, after having gained this jnanam, then the person can take up full karma sannyasa. All karma can be left, and just this nididhyasanam can be entertained. Then Bhagavan talked about self-effort. In the next few verses, Bhagavan gives the importance of self-effort, which is a very famous mantra. Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva khyatmano bandhu atmaiva rupuratmanah. Where Bhagavan says, one is one's own friend and one is one's own enemy, based on how we see ourselves. So here self-effort is being stressed by Bhagavan. One has to prioritize things. One has to align the value structure in a proper manner. One should use one's body, mind, senses, which is given in a proper manner to gain this moksha, towards gaining this moksha. There are so many obstacles which can come. They say Shreyamsi Bahu Vignani. So many possibilities are there. So many obstacles are possible. Only when we start making effort towards something proper, wise, then there are so many obstacles possible. But one does not get disheartened. There is no diffidence. There is always confidence that one can overcome. One takes the help of the Shastra. They say for moksha, four kripas, anugrahas are required. Ishvara, Ishvara Kripa, Shastra Kripa, Guru Kripa, and Atma Kripa. So, Atma Kripa is what is being talked about, the self effort. So, one uses one's mind, body, and senses, and all the support system available in the form of Shastra, Ishvara, and Guru to still continue on the path, make effort, and gain moksha. And one can become an enemy because one, if one looks up down upon oneself, starts judging oneself, says I am not good enough, then one becomes one's own enemy, or abuses one's body mind sense complex which is given one's free will, then one becomes one's own enemy and becomes an obstacle in one's own path. So that need not happen. So Bhagavan says, you make sure that you are your friend. You are your best friend, really. Nobody else can help you. One's own effort is very important. Then Bhagavan talks about the benefit, the result of dhyanam also in the form of samatvam. Bhagavan says, samaloštashma kanchana. This person is able to see a clod of earth, a stone, or gold in the same way. There is no difference for the person. There is no raga or dvesha towards anything. There is complete objectivity because of this jnanam. Then the sameness is continued to be talked about. This person, samatvam, the vision of oneness makes a person see the same reality everywhere. That is talked about. Then the further verses talk about this preparation. We saw how the antaranga sadhanam, the steps just before preparation, where one should sit, how one should sit, what is the asanam, how one should keep one's body, all that is talked about. And then further the process of meditation, the object of meditation is talked about, and what is meditated upon, atma or brahma, oneself is meditated upon. And this meditation can happen either by entertaining the vision of oneness, the aikyam, or it can be in the form of some vastu swarupa, like we saw, I am shuddha, I am ever pure, I can never be impure. This raga dvesha are the attributes of the mind based on the gunas. I am ever free from any impurity, raga dvesha, or I am limitless. Generally I think I am only confined to this body. Then I entertain the vision saying that aham anantaha, or I always think I'm subject to sorrow, so I entertain the thought. It's not the thought, it's already the jnanam gained. It is a reality of myself which I'm bringing back. It is not some brainwashing thought, but it is based on a fact that I have understood that I am ananda swarupa, I am of the nature of happiness, I am purnaha, I don't have to seek anything. So all these kinds of words can be used, some symbols. Omkara can be used to bring back the vision. There is Omkara meditation talked about even in the Mandukya Upanishad, where the whole Jagat is condensed in the form of Omkara, and the reality behind the Omkara is myself, which is Nirguna Atma. That is brought back. So, so many kinds of meditation, nididhyasanams are possible. So that is talked about, and Bhagavan, as we said, he says, even as the mind goes away, you bring it back again and again, and make it steady. Once the mind becomes steady, and he gives an example, which is a famous verse, Yata Deepaha Nivatastaha Ningate Sopama Smita. So that example is where a lamp is kept in a windless place, just as it is steady. The mind is as steady as that. So once the mind becomes steady, then one can uninterruptedly think about this vision. Keep entertaining and dwelling on the vision. So That is talked about by Bhagavan. And then what happens in meditation? The person is able to enjoy one's own nature of being fullness, that ananda one is able to understand. That is talked about in the next set of verses. And finally, Bhagavan talks about all these, you know, this sukham which is gained by this meditation, the result of meditation, Bhagavan talks about. Then the vision of oneness also is being talked about. What is being entertained and what is the result? All these are described by Bhagavan. And then next, Arjuna's question is raised. Arjuna raises a question, an important question he raises. I am not able to see this, mind, having a mind which is free from this vacillation or disturbance. The vision of oneness that you are talking about, which I have to entertain for a length of time, I don't think it is easy, because the mind is of a nature of meditation, sorry, agitation. He says, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna. O Krishna, manaha chanchalam. Mind is of the nature of agitation. And Pramathi Balavad Dridham. It is very strong, it can control everything else, and that we can see. The mind can hijack even the intellect. The intellect may say, no, no, don't do it. But the mind, if it has that power, then it will just trick the buddhi also, the intellect. No, 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 it's okay, we can do it still, it's okay. So the mind is very powerful. So Arjuna raises this question: how do I gain this mastery over the mind? Then Bhagavan gives the answer in a twofold way. He says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Through abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasa means repeated practice, that is the general meaning. That is also valid. Abhyasa is also seeing again and again the distance between myself and the mind, the freedom between myself and the mind. I am not the mind. The mind is me, but I am not the mind. And the thoughts that come up in the mind, I'm able to just witness them as thoughts and not identify with the thoughts and get carried away and become the emotions that are entertained in the mind. So that practice is called abhyasa, seeing it again and again and again. And also another kind of abhyasa is seeing the limitation of things again and again. That is also abhyasa, because some objects or people or situations come up and they can cause disturbance, but seeing the limitation again and again, that is also abhyasa. The second point that Bhagavan raises as a remedy is vairagya. What is vairagya? Vairagya is nothing but seeing things as they are, without raga or dvesha, without this added subjectivity, as we call it, our own projections based on our likes and dislikes. For instance, say this is a tennis racket, all right. It's a tennis racket. It is made of wood and plastic or whatever it is made of. But then this is the racket that Nadal used in his last tournament, if it is said. Then what happens to that racket? Yeah. The way it is seen is very different by the people who are fans, right? For our grandmother, it may not make any difference, but for a tennis fan, it makes such a difference. Why? Because we project an added value in that object more than what it really is, and therefore you can see in the auction how much price a person is willing to pay for something, which is some mundane object that they will never use, right? But it is a collector's item because there is so much of projected value in it. In the same way, some relationships, some situations in life, some objects like money or fame is given so much importance. How many likes I get on social media, how many followers I have on social media, how many people respond to my comments. This is a big, idea people have, and that, based on that, they have some self worth. my self-worth is decided by other people's response to me. That is a projection again, because I don't have a healthy self-worth. So all that has to be addressed. The inner child has to be addressed. A healthy attitude towards oneself, self-love has to be inculcated. Then I can have objectivity towards things, people and situations in life, and see them as they are without projecting my subjectivity. That is called vairagya. And once I have vairagya, my mind will stay with what it wants to stay. It will not go towards the objects of raga. What is vairagya? The absence of raga, the quality of being free from raga likes. Because the mind generally has a tendency towards going towards the object of like. So by vairagya, we are removing the tendency of the mind, or we are addressing the tendency of the mind to move towards some other objects away from what we want to do. So through Vairagya and Abhyasa, Bhagavan says one can master the mind. Then further, Arjuna's next question comes up, where the question that you asked earlier: if a person is not successful in this life, he has committed oneself to moksha, but because of some reason one is not able to gain this jnanam, then what happens to the person? Then Bhagavan says, no worries, the person will pick up thread in the next janma. Only two options, as we saw: can be born in a wealthy, cultured family, or can be born in a not so wealthy yogi or jnani's family and pick up the thread and still continue his or her efforts, gain jnanam and gain moksha. So, and finally, Bhagavan concludes by glorifying this yogi, the one who is meditating and making efforts towards steadying one's jnanam, strengthening one's jnanam. Then Bhagavan says the person will definitely gain. So here we have to understand there is a difference between jnanam and jnana nishtha. Jnanam is after Shravanam, one gains jnanam. In the process of Shravanam, during Shravanam, with the help of the teacher, the person is exposed to the Shastra, then Jnanam happens. But then, as we saw, because of Viparita Bhavana, because of habitual thinking, this Jnanam does not have the strength to guide the person's whole life, all the moments in one's life. So the person can miss this Jnanam sometimes. It is not available all the time. It is there, but it is not available. It is not internalized. So that does not guide one's actions or thoughts. So that is now converted into jnana nishtha, where one has the steadiness of this jnanam. It is unshakable. At any point in time, there is no miss. There is no fall from this vision. There is no moment where one is not with the vision. So it becomes it is so spontaneous. One does not even have to bring back the vision. One is able to live life just in the vision itself. So that is called jnana nishtha, that is gained through this nididhyasanam. And one of the ways of nididhyasanam is dhyanam, which is elaborately mentioned in the 6th chapter by Bhagavan.
So beautiful, Aarti ji, for summarizing and also bringing the main points out. Because for lay people, which includes me also, just to understand about alambhava, or to bring back the mind, or to understand the difference between upasana and nididhyasana, and that we can pick up the thread. Whatever happens, nothing is lost. We can always pick up the thread. That is very important to understand. And I really appreciate you summarizing it. We'll see you again for the next chapter. And until then, hope all of us can make use of and take benefit from whatever you have summarized for us. Thank you so much. Shri Guru Bhai.